Hi, and welcome everyone. It's me, Varleigh, with Lavender Sky Panther, back with you for an unexpected kind of a surprise live here, number 34, and it's called Disc Low. Sure. So, a little play on the word disclosure. I usually, as you know, do lives on Saturdays, most for the most part, or on the weekend. And something just came up the other night that said, "Hey, we got to talk about disclosure a little more formally and informally at the same time." Of course, I've been doing a form of disclosure for quite some time now, showing cloak and craft on my channel, especially ramping up. If you look at my playlist, I have all the kind of cloak and craft and even highlights of some of my first 200 shows, showing them highlights or condensed versions of all of those videos. So if you look in the playlist, you'll see them. And also some of my recent lives, I really go in detail showing, highlighting individual very key cloak and craft and some not so cloak and craft moments. And when I'm saying craft, obviously I'm talking about of the ET type, or galactic, can be interdimensional, can be a USO, a craft from the ocean, can be inner Earth. There's so many places that these quote unquote UFOs or craft can be seen, and there's different beings that may emulate a kind of craft. There's organic kind of organic craft, and anyway, there's a lot is coming. So what I just want to say is, so the title's just a little pun, like disc low, like low in the sky. I see a disc, sure. I already have and have been reporting about it. And I wanted to say too, it's just not only seeing it like physically in the sky or over water or coming out of water or wherever you're seeing them. It's also they show up in our dreams. And a lot of us may have had some actually ET experiences happening in what we think is just a dream. In reality, it might be a little more happening there than you think. And so it could be that you are having some real experiences, but they just seem very dreamlike. And that's all very possible, and it's nothing to be afraid of. And so my overwhelming drive, which I lack a lot these days, a lot of motivation, but there was an overwhelming drive to come on to make sure I at least touch base and do a little friendly reminder, like literally a friendly reminder about the positive side of disclosure, and that any of these beings that we might be hearing about, a lot of them are simply friends and family, or versions of our higher self, or parallel selves. There's a lot to this. Now, yes, there can be like darker side of that. And I think that was mostly predominantly happening in the 40s and the 50s. But now that the collective consciousness is moving into a higher frequency, think of it as heavenly bound. So we have the 3D earth, and then we all know there's a heaven, which we associate with there being positive vibes. Well, earth is moving into that frequency of being more and more positive. So a lot of this other dark negative stuff is falling away. So any kind of experiences of the ET kind, unless you're a targeted individual, which that happens too, by military or other kind of dark ops groups, most of the experiences, which is separate from an abduction, they're positive ET experiences. And then, of course, in the past, there have been negative abductions. I'm not saying that they're not happening at all right now, but I'm just saying they should be becoming more, rarer and rarer as we start ascending, especially if you're on this channel watching this. So all that to say, I want to start off talking about the very positive aspects of some experiences that I have had personally. I'm just going to do a recap. I have mentioned them sprinkled here and there on previous lives and other shows, but I'm kind of making this like the one-stop shop, the one place of a disclosure titled video, just to kind of sum up and take a little journey through some of the experiences I've had, and recap and mention some that I've done in the past too, that friends and other acquaintances that I know have had some experiences, and just kind of put this all and package it up in all one place and tie a nice little neat bow around it. The drive to do this now too is coming well ahead of this Friday, at least in the United States, in the Western world here. There is a movie set to come out on Friday, and it's the same director. Without naming names, the initials are SS. But the director that has put out there also things like Jaws, so being terrified of sharks, and put out things of like the Jurassic nature, to be afraid of dinosaurs, and other things. It's all fear, fear, fear. So based on what I've already seen on some of the previews, I can only expect more of the same. It's like, why would we expect anything different coming from that particular director? And so I didn't get a nice vibe, of the content that I saw on the previews. And I don't really appreciate it because it's putting a whole dark cloud over what true disclosure is going to be, is kind of a reunion of friends and family and different frequencies for us. It's a happy, joyous thing. It is not at all going to be this like negative, dark leaning doomsday stuff. Like even the title of this movie set to come out on Friday, it's 2 words, and it's disclosure day. So that's like a doomsday, it's like everything to do with that kind of negative leaning stuff. And in reality, if you are of a loving heart, that's not what we're going to see in this earth experience. We're going to have the positive side, the higher vibe side of all of that, which again, it's like a reunion with galactic family and friends, with interdimensional family and friends, soul family, however you want to phrase it. Okay. And I can say that based on my own personal experiences and messages that I've received with reliable connection into the divine. When I say divine, that is my whole group. I talk about it. That's God, that's Jesus, that's ancestors, that's loved ones who have recently and long since passed. That is guardian angelics. That is all good things based in love. And I guess before I get going much further, I meant to make that as the core message at the very beginning. What I'm going to talk about is, I want to say that above all, talking literally above all, and figuratively above all of what is coming, what we're in now, if we stay focused in a love-based, heart-based, heart-centered based mindset, outlook, perspective, feeling, that's the choice everyone's talking about these days. You choose love or fear. It really is as simple as that. If we can choose to stay in love, or if we freak out in fear for a second, just go, nope, there's something, God's got me, angels, my whole team's got me, and redirect yourself right back into staying in the love-based outlook and, vibration. That's the name of the game right now. And so above all, we have all of these loving beings that surround us at all times. And just because we don't see them with the physical eyes does not mean they are not there or can't be called in an instant. And what I've been doing too, especially with healing work, if I, see somebody, even just out in public, it didn't have to be like a controlled session or anything, happen to notice somebody's really distressed or hurting. I have been known to, when I'm feeling it and it feels mutual and the other person's willing, and I ask them, I have done sessions even just in public. Like if they're really distressed, spontaneously, I come in and I do like hands-on healing. We work it out right there. I've done that on 2 occasions, just spontaneously in public. And that is the divine love moving through me, through my heart space, and on through my hands. And my hands are extension of the healing, whether they're hovering or actually on the person. And again, you get the permission. But each of us is capable of doing it. And you just get in a space where you really wish to help the person. You love, universal love for that person, family kind of love. And you just, in your mind, even think it like, God, please, let's help. Like, what can we do here? Please, love, be here present. God, be here present. And that love will come through. You will feel like light or heat coming through your hands. And it's like the heat of a warm, beautiful, golden, healing sun. And that is the power that each of us, and capabilities that we can have. And, it takes willing to do it. It takes not worrying about what you look like in public. It's just kind of like, it's a loving heart in action. And so I just want to say that above all is love with any of this. And I want to say that we have loving galactic. And I just say galactic for now, because to me, I feel more connected with galactic, like something coming in from space, if you will. But it can be, again, inner earth beings, elemental beings, nature beings, you name it, interdimensionals, parallel Earth, whatever. But for me, I just feel more of like a connection to something coming in from the outside, whatever that means. For me, it's more galactic. And I have been, in situations where I have said, hey, divine team, come help me with a healing. I'll be laying down at nighttime and just say, hey, come in and help me heal this or this. And then I'll even say specifically, and hey, any loving family and friends kind of galactic beings, come in and help me heal, or, either heal it for me or through me, whatever. And I have had healing experiences where the very next morning something has been healed doing this. I have been in sessions, like card reading type sessions with other people. Well, in one specific case, I'll say, where we were just discussing something and a message kind of came in through. The particular message was thermodynamics, and it was a message for me. And I'm like, what does that mean? And next thing you know, the other person, and this was through a Zoom type call overseas, and that person on the one end was starting to get really hot. And then like a split second later, then I started to, my light dimmed out a bit. And then both of us were like feeling all of this heat. And I'm like, whoa, what the heck was that? And then the very next morning, I'm like, oh my God, that was a healing. That was a spontaneous healing. But the discussion leading up to it was talking about that I had a connection with my galactic team, and everything that was about that reading was talking about them. And they stepped in and helped heal something. And it was unbeknownst to me that it was important that my foot, it was like 3 toes on my foot were totally, one was broken, the other couple were strained, and they really hurt for a long time. But I had it in my mind that it's going to heal. We're going to heal it without going to get any other outside medical help. And it still was hurting a bit, though. It did impair me a bit. And unbeknownst to me, I needed that foot to be healed for the week that was coming up, because a loved one passed and I had to really do hands-on heavy lifting and help out the family with something with that. And I couldn't have done that if my foot were lame. So whatever I, was helping very in a loving way to heal, had a little bit of, heads up that was going to go down, that a loved one was going to pass. So, and again, it's been unbeknownst to me. But then when I needed to go up and help, I'm like, oh, that's why they helped heal me. I couldn't have done this with a lame foot. So these things are very real. They do happen, these healings. And it is because a loving, I'll say ET, family and friends can help us and assist with these things. They're all part of the divine creation. If God created everything, all of us are a part of that. And there are many facets of us. But that's a whole nother topic. So what I think I'll do is, I just wanted to say, though, drive that message home. Above all is love. Okay. And that's the power of prayer. That's calling in God, Jesus, whomever you feel resonant with. There's plenty of ascended masters there too. Again, it's all loving beings, ourselves included, are all just a facet of God itself. For me, God is just a big energy, glowing, source of light, a beautiful golden light. For some people, it takes on a masculine or feminine characteristic. To me, it's everything all in one. But that's really neither here nor there, because that's a very personal thing of what is the image of God. To me, it's just the image in the heart, which is love. So, but anyway, the point is, what's your choice? And again, I think if you're watching this, hey, of course, choose a loving way forward. That's definitely the ticket, not fear, right? Fear doesn't feel good. Fear doesn't really solve anything. Fear only attracts more like negative things to happen to people if you're worried about somebody, right? Instead of being concerned about somebody, just trust something's got them. Just like trusting something's loving, blessing, and protecting you at any given moment. And then watch your life unfold in a more beautiful, magical way. So love above all. I've beat that little thing down to the ground, that topic. Then another thing before I really get into it about the craft that I found amusing was, it just kind of flashed a vision of this to talk about, was how funny it is when you observe little ones. So especially if they're like preschool age, maybe a little bit in early, so say like 4 years old, around 3 or 4 till, well, this can go on throughout adulthood, but say around 3 to 4 years old up until close to 10 years old. I noticed, especially with the small, like male kids, they're always comparing. And if you have children, you probably know this to be true. You see two boys, like young kids, come up together, and the first thing they do, even if they don't know each other, is they're like, I'm taller than you. I'm taller than you. And even if it's a shorter kid, he'll go like, see, I'm taller than you, like his hand is taller than the other kid. And I always found that kind of an annoying phenomenon going on, but it's like it happened every time with kids, that they are always comparing their height and who was taller. And to me, that becomes an important component of this disclosure thing in a very important way. And it starts off with a very honest question I'm going to ask myself, as well as all of you, if you consider yourself relatively open-minded, which again, I think you are if you watch this show at all. The taller thing and the question I'm going to ask, they go hand in hand. So bear with me a minute. So the taller thing is one aspect. And then the other thing is the question, like, okay, by now, most of us do know that there are craft of different types, as I mentioned earlier in the show. And most of us by now may, even if you haven't encountered or recall encountering having an ET experience, whether it's in dream state or not, you likely have had one. And maybe the recall isn't there yet. Maybe it is. But the thing is that if we asked ourselves, okay, I might be able to accept that there are craft. And again, I've told you that for over 6 years, I've shown you evidence of cloaking craft and some that are not so cloaking. So I know they're true. I know they're there, and I've had other experiences that I'm going to go through a little bit later in the show, specific ones. So I know they're there. But the thing is, okay, fine. Even if we can maybe take a baby step to accept the fact that there are craft of all kinds, and they are benevolent. Not everything is out to get you and hurt you, as has been portrayed in horror movies, thriller movies, etc. So the question is, knowing that and maybe being open to that, would you be further open to seeing an ET, like in close quarters? Because some do visit people, like in your bedroom, you're sleeping, and people are having real experiences and open their eyes and may see one and be kind of horrified. Are you, and meaning me too, open enough to be okay with seeing, even if they're, benevolent, like at close quarters, or seeing an ET suddenly? You're walking in the grocery store and you happen to see a flash and see the true appearance of a person, which then looks something like an ET. Would we be okay with that? Would we be ready to handle it? And at first I thought, oh yeah, sure, I'd be totally on board. I'd be totally ready. But then I got to think, would I really be, And that's another thing with this whole disclosure thing. You got to be real honest with yourself. And like when you go to sleep, you can just put it out there. Like I say, I do ask for assistance from galactic family and friends with healing. But in the back of my mind, I say, yeah, I'm open to that with the healing. But in the end of the sentence, I kind of say, but, I'd rather not see you. Like, no offense, but can we do this without me seeing you? Because, my soul knows maybe I'm not quite so ready. And especially, it's one thing if the beings that you do kind of encounter, again, whether you're in dream state or you kind of wake up and partial consciousness sees something, it's somehow easier to accept, I think, something when it's smaller rather than like a 9-foot or, 15-foot being. That gets a little intimidating. And that's where it comes into what I was talking about with kids that automatically go, I'm taller than you, right? Is there's something about, we've been so programmed and ingrained to fear. Oh, hey, Rita, thanks for joining in. And thanks for anybody else who can be here too. I forgot to say thanks and welcome, everyone. There's something about size, right? We're programmed like, oh, size doesn't matter or size matters. In this case, it's like we're subliminally programmed or subconsciously programmed to be afraid of something much taller than us, or be in awe of it, certainly, but also have a little bit of like intimidation factor. Like if we're the smaller one, we're intimidated. So with this like whole ET thing is the honest question, like be honest with yourselves. Would I freak out if I saw something that appeared 9, 12 or higher feet? Like this is in the whole Sasquatch world. That's a very real thing, that those beings are, easy, 7, 8, 9 and up. Would you totally freak out, or can you start to accept it? And so, like I said, personally, I kind of say like, hey, I don't mind the healing or knowing something is there, but I don't want to see you. I kind of have said that even when I was like little. I was having kind of recurring. Now, older, I kind of putting the pieces together. I realized they were ET experiences and dreams. And instinctively, I just always in my mind as a little kid, like at 7, said, hey, I know you're there. Like in my room, it was dark, but I'm like, I don't want to see you. And then I remember whatever I experienced. No, I didn't see them, and I had no recall of that. So the size thing, though, would the size really be intimidating? Or can we right now start to kind of maybe imagine a little scenario that you have a loving family and friend coming that might not look like us, that's like taller. Can we maybe adjust and retrain ourselves, kind of not ditch programming, but open up now and say, okay, if there were a being that I would see, and I know it's not going to do harm and it's love-based, can I be open to that? And I was asking that question this morning, and I'm going to do what I'm saying. I've got to, not got to, but I want to start to kind of not train, I'm looking for the right word, be open and remember to feel in with the heart more than I'm seeing with the eyes. So if I ever see a being, again, whether it's in a dream state or something you see, wake up, it's in your bedroom, or whether you're at the grocery store, this happened to me earlier today. I was like at a diner. I didn't expect to go. Something last minute happened. I ended up there. And there was a person there who was like a server, came by and was very kind, polite. But I'm like, why can't I get a normal reading on this person? Like, I don't feel the normal, it's hard to explain. Like, there's an aura, there's a field to every person. And whether they're having a crappy day or they're, beautifully, wonderfully shining love out, you at least register a certain aura or kind of energy signature. And on this person, it doesn't happen to me much. I was like, why can't I get a reading? And off of this person. And then I'm like, oh, maybe this one isn't from around here, so to speak. It is and isn't. Maybe this is a kind of like an ET. That very possible. But again, my physical eyes were saying, no, that's a person. But my reading, of my amazing heart space, all of us have it. That's our little like truth detector in our energy reader. That bypasses the brain that overthinks. We just, get the pure reading, was having a hard time placing anything. And so I just thought it was interesting. And then I got home and I'm like, oh, I think that's what was going on. It was somebody from, beyond or, something I can't explain. But there was no fear there. And so anyway, sorry, let me look at the comments for a minute. Again, welcome, Rita. Great to see you, Rita Pita. And Vanessa Rice. Once when I was younger, me and my mom had moved into an apartment. I woke up in the night and saw 2 ETs shining blue lights at our heads. I asked them to stop, and they did. That's all I remember. Wow, that's fantastic. And in the sense of, I hope you weren't afraid. But that means, yeah, you absolutely had a loving presence there. And if they stopped, there's a great YouTube channel for things like this, and people have an experience if you don't know it already. And I'll link stuff up, after anything I talk, if I mention it and I can remember, I will, go back after this airs and put it in the description area. But the YouTube channel, there's a gentleman who's had a number of amazing experiences, and he helps people. Just go around, look on his playlist or his list. I think you'll enjoy it, especially Vanessa. I'm just getting a hit on that. If you don't know him already, maybe you do. It's Barry Littleton. And it's YouTube channel, just Barry Littleton. And I found him through another YouTuber, Solretta in Ontario, because this will kind of segue into what I'm going to talk about next is, and I'm going to be jumping around, so bear with me. And if I lose a train of thought and you want me to complete it and I don't come back to it on my own, feel free to put it in the chat. Say, hey, go back to that, okay? But I even found Barry's YouTube channel because he talks about fascinating aspects of what you're mentioning, Vanessa, and other ones that, when I hear what he has to say, I'm like, oh, wow, I didn't think about that topic. And then something clicks like, oh, yeah, that makes total sense. Wow, he just, puts together some puzzle pieces for me on this ET world. And, oh, wow, And so I first found him through another YouTuber because the original YouTuber I found to get to Barry was Solretta, because I started having, and I've mentioned this on other shows, and this is kind of a little mini recap of my otherworldly experiences, ETs. I'm going to go into Sasquatch now. They go hand in hand, because this is what kind of reawakened a recall in me to go down and really look into the whole ET situation again, was when I started having a recall about a very poignant Sasquatch experience I had when I was 14. And the recall on it just started coming up in 2020. All of a sudden, it became literally on my brain, Like, oh, wait, remember when I had that experience at 14? Oh, holy crap. Why have I forgotten about it for, over 40 years? Why is it just suddenly now like on my mind so prominently? And it made no sense to me. And this is an example of what we call activations. So that information, that experience was dormant. It was, at the time the experience happened, pretty darn real and frightening. At the same time, intuitively, I knew I shouldn't be afraid afterward, but I was, and then I wasn't. And then when my 50s, I had this recall, and then I started talking with people, and then I put it together through talking with others. Solretta was one of them. Sarah Bignell over at Yowie Central is another, because she had me come on and tell my story. And actually, I'm going to put that in the description area below if you want to know about Sasquatch stories. Mine, I tell it all in episodes Yowie Central 66, 67, and 104. A lot of my thoughts on a lot of things. So anyway, that I'll put in the description area below. It was just a podcast, and now she's posted everything on YouTube as well. So that's a really good thing. But my point is that I just had this recall out of nowhere with Sasquatch, and how that connects and threads into the ET experiences is that in that account, which I'm not going to go through that one now. I'll send the links because they're very detailed links, accounts through those links I'm going to put down. I tell my story in detail. But as a part of that experience with the Sasquatch, it was in North Carolina, up in the foothills of the mountains. I was like in a cabin. It was nighttime, whatever. So this experience was happening, but in conjunction with the Sasquatch experience was a beam of light coming down, and then it just vanished. And so it wasn't cars, it wasn't anything. It was a UFO. And so my recall started kicking in again, like around 2020, about that experience that happened like in 1984. And then I was on the internet searching, and I'm like, my question was on the search engine, hey, anybody else have an experience with a Sasquatch and at the same time a light, like a UFO? And that's how I eventually serendipitously found Solretta. And then in talking with her, she had mentioned Barry, because Barry Littleton's channel, he talks about Sasquatch and there being like 5 major types and all of that. So anyway, that brought me into that whole world. And then I realized, oh, Barry really talks in depth about ET experiences too. So anyway, I just want to make that little loop. I'll close it off for a minute, but I want to see what Vanessa is writing. Vanessa says, with her experience, she says, I wasn't afraid. Thank you so much for doing these shows. I also once had a dream, and I had jumped timelines, and I remember a lady, I think it was, you helped me get back. Isn't that funny? That is funny. And thank you for letting me know. And Vanessa says, you and Mila is over at Higher Vibrations YouTube channel, and I'll put her in the description area below too. She says, we're talking on a show. Oh, so she's saying that I was a guest on Mila's show talking about jumping timelines. In my dream, I thought I better get back. And I was going down an escalator, and you were there going up, and you reached out and helped me jump. Oh, good. I hope I was helpful. That is so cool, Vanessa. Thank you for letting me know. That's pretty wild. If we're finding each other on these shows, we know there's a bigger soul connection, family connection, for sure. So I think that's really cool when different people pop up like that. So again, I hope it was only good vibes and helpful for me. It sounds like it was. Thank you for letting me know. So anyway, I'm going to come back to the size where, tall, like if we saw like a really extra being, would we freak out? And so I'm just putting maybe a little suggestion out there to myself and maybe to you to maybe think about it a little. And again, no fear here on this channel for anything I speak of. Would we be afraid if we just saw like a 9-foot being? And then maybe retrain our initial reaction, programmed reaction from being going like, oh my God, to, look at it. And then try to feel more from here than a reaction from what the brain might be sending out, right? And feel into the reaction coming from the heart center or even the gut level, rather than, anything else. Because, and I refer to this every time, Star Wars, A New Hope, episode 4, Obi-Wan Kenobi says to the guy he's training, Luke Skywalker, your eyes can deceive you, don't trust them. And the height thing I want to get to too is, especially any dog lovers out there, I'm more a cat person, I don't have either, but whatever. I love all animals, but you know what I mean? Oh, hey, Chew, welcome. we all know the phenomenon of the tiny dog. So fill in the blank of whatever species you want, a chihuahua, a poodle, whatever, right? Tiny thing, right? Those, when they're like fiercely protecting something, especially their owner or whatever, they'll go up to a fence and face off with a mastiff or, Great Dane, or again, fill in the blank with whatever giant species is out there, tough, badass species of dog. They'll go up, could be shredded apart easily by whatever the quote unquote bigger dog is, but they stand their ground and they're like, I'm mightier and bigger than, 1,000 of you. They know no fear with the size. And I'm sure all of us have seen that phenomenon. We all kind of chuckle like, doesn't that little dog know that it could just get stepped on? And what happens in that scenario often, the big mighty dog who could shred this little thing, with just not even trying, suddenly starts to shrink back and feel like it's the little dog, right? And so I just want to say, I don't know why that phenomenon struck me so poignant today, but it is this thing about size. And again, those little kids going, oh, I'm taller than you. We just have to, again, get out of the eyes and the physical and just kind of read auras. And when you read auras or energies of whatever being you're encountering, can be a fairy, an elf, or whatever, just again, go by the heart space to register. Is that a trickster energy or is that a loving being? First and foremost, try to get past what the physical eyes are seeing. Because a lot of beings out there, ETs included, some of them can morph and change, turn into a ball of light. Some ETs, and you'll hear this on Barry's show. Shout out to Barry. Hope you don't mind, Barry. I'm sending people your way. Some of these beings, he'll talk about it, are, don't even have a body. They are just like an orb. And that happens with the Sasquatch phenomenon all the time. People will report that they know there was a Sasquatch there, and then all of a sudden they just see orbs floating by. And these are beings that have the capability and the memory and just know how to do it to raise their frequency and turn into a ball of light and travel that way. We have that capability too, if we remembered and knew without a shadow of any kind of a doubt that we could do it. We could. And we're coming into that more, because in conjunction with that is we have a few things working against us, or did. Things are starting to move away, like that thicker veil. They talk about the veil is lifting. So once that continues to lift, we will come back and be able to step into some of these things that we used to be able to do. But we were so programmed, coming through all of these years of control and being a slave that we didn't know we were, by a bigger system that wanted to dim, and not only dim, but drown out and quench our light, put us into a fog of forgetfulness that, we could do these things. So the fun and exciting thing about disclosure is, by seeing a craft, or, again, I show you cloaking craft, because to me, that's like the soft, nicer way to show disclosure, to not freak you out, myself included. I was drip fed and shown different kinds of craft, little by little by little. And actually, I'm just going to do a quick little, I just pulled some sheets from some previous shows for those of you who might not be familiar with my stuff. But this was one of my best examples of a cloaking craft, not so cloaked, of all time on my channel and what I have seen. So this was, I think, in 2021. And this was a picture, I took it from a video, and this is a still from my video, of lightning backlit lighting this thing that was moving into a cloud over my neighborhood. In my little description here about this show, I said I want to talk about the positive side of craft and ETs and disclosure, from the front porch, the backyard, etc. This is literally from my front porch, so to speak, standing outside on a sidewalk. There's a lightning storm, felt really weird, stayed in place for over an hour and a half, didn't move. That's impossible over the skies of Florida, because usually there's a breeze that will push it along. Yet this did, so it got my attention. So I waited out there an hour and I was taking footage. I couldn't see much. I didn't see this while I was out there, actually. I just saw lightning flashes, but I felt something was going on. And if you look at the show, the source show of this, and I'll put it down below in the description, you'll hear my whole story on it. So I go back in, I start looking at the footage, freeze frame, slow, take the video, go frame by frame by frame. And then this pops up and I'm like, holy crap. I mean, this is a right angle back here. This is a point. This looks like a butcher knife. I think we can agree it's not a cloud. And when you look at the scale of it, it's huge, over a house in the neighborhood. So like I say, I saw this. I didn't feel anything threatening when I was out there, because I'm talking about going with your heart space, feel the situation out. If anything felt really sinister, like this thing's going to fly over and bomb the crap out of me, I know that my divine team would have put it on my heart to, oh, you know what? Time to exit stage left. You might want to run inside. But I didn't get any of that. I was like in awe and wonder about how is this electrical storm doing this for so long? Anyway, you know, I was given this gift to see this thing. And this is not the only thing I saw that day. And as you look here too, there's like some kind of darker orb going on, and it's more cloaked. Anyhow, this is one example. I don't want to spend too much time on these because I have them in previous shows. But then here's the other one I had shown recently in a live, the one over water. Okay, this is the original. And I'm like, what is that thing? It's really low over the bay, saltwater. And so with a little bit of the enhancements that I do, just adjusting the contrast, color saturation and brightness, usually that's enough to get to see these kinds of things. And there's something happening up here too. But anyway, we get this, you know, I'll zoom in, show you. So here's the water line. I'm on a boat with other people. I was laughing to myself because I'm like, this is so insanely low. And it's not any kind of dirigible, not any kind of blimp, not any kind of anything. It was huge. It was silent, made not one sound. And as these cloak and craft do, they'll kind of morph and change very quickly. And so if you have the eyes to see, which again, I woke up from one morning to the next, starting to see stuff like this in the clouds and knowing it was there, you know, you just see the wonder and magic of it. So this is, again, I was not very far from this thing on a boat. And my instantaneous reaction was to laugh with joy, because I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm seeing that. But with joy, with laughter, it wasn't like, oh, holy crap, turn the boat around, get back to safety. I was just watching it going like, wow, what a gift. I get to see this thing. Whoever, you know, the ET team on this thing is letting me see it. And that's awesome. It's a gift, right? So then as these things do, they'll present, and then they'll start to kind of disintegrate and fade away and kind of just look like cloud. And so they come in, they show you they're there, and then they kind of disintegrate. So again, I felt it strongly to get this show up again, maybe recapping things you might have already heard, but it's important to remember disclosure on the good side of the fence here. It's a positive thing. It's a reunion with friends and family. It's not this gloom and doom and terror thriller thing that I think is going to come out on Friday and probably do a damning effect on disclosure for people who want to buy into it. I refuse to watch the movie, by the way. I'm not going to watch it on Friday. Or anytime. I just saw bits of the previews, and that's all I needed to know that, oh man, this is taking it into a negative vibration, and it really shouldn't be. I'm going to show a couple more examples of craft, and then I'm going to do a fun kind of a top 15 list. I'll throw it out there for right now before I get there in case you want to jot some things down. I'm going to throw out a top 15 list that I just thought like, oh, let me just jot down. What could we say? We have the acronym UFO, okay? Unidentified flying object. And something inside me just said, hey, for fun, how many different positive variations of the meanings of that can I list out for UFO? For example, I'll give you an example. To kick it off, you can be thinking about it before I read my whole list of, like I said, it's more or less 15. But like UFO could be uniting fearless, okay? So you have the UFO, right? So I go down like a whole list. It was just like coming out of me, writing 15 things down. And I like that in particular when I get to the end of this list, what the kind of final outcomes are, but I'll get to that in a minute. So that's just something like if you want to doodle and write things down as I talk. And I'm just going to show a couple more cloak and craft recaps. So this was another one this was the one that came in from very kind viewer and friend of the channel from Australia on the outback. And this is the road. And this is, you know, just like farmlands around. This is the sky. And then you have this huge thing showing up in the sky. And I just put an outline around it to show you, compared to the road, how big this thing was. And again, the viewer, she was just like, she noticed this pattern that was too organized just to be like cloud in the sky. And so she asked if I would do my enhancements. So again, it's kind of, I never do filters. I manually up and lower, mainly contrast, brightness, color, saturation. sometimes black point and shadow, sometimes highlight and whatever. And I show in my previous live how to play around and do that for yourself with your photos to see things pop out and emerge out of them. Anyway, so as I did my process here, and I'll link the show below after this airs, it was clear this is a massive cloaking craft. And again, even in that one, I got into throwing it out there. Well, is it just a huge craft cloaking in a frequency in a way that we can't quite understand how it's working? Other people are like, hey, could that have been a hologram? And I said, no, it's not a hologram, because another friend of this person in a different part of the town saw it as well. And, from a different vantage point, and one from the air in a plane. So very interesting. But again, the nature of how these things cloak, it's a little elusive. And I really want to know how they do it. It's, to me, again, if you see me smiling and you can feel me lit up, this is a positive, happy thing. These are getting little clues that, well, it's like a little bit of a game. And it's a little drip feed, soft disclosure. We'll show you a little more. Here's the other cloaking that I did on the previous live. Sky amphora. The amphora is that Greek, urn kind of thing. And, here's the size of it. I was in the backyard cutting the grass, and I'm like, wait, something's going on. So I took the picture, and doing what I do, this starts emerging with frequency waves, with symmetry. I mean, it's a huge cloaking craft. But again, even though I couldn't see it because it was kind of blinding and glaring till I came in and played around with this, I saw something for sure, but I didn't quite know what I was looking at. And then I saw it here. But my instant reaction again was, damn, that's impressive. Like, how do they do it? It wasn't like, oh, holy shit, I better run inside and like duck and cover. It's doomsday. No, it's like, this is fantastic. I can't wait to see more. Like, entertain me. Like, now you're a Greek vase, over here, that other one I just showed you, it looked like there's a scene in The Force Awakens Star Wars where it's exactly that angle and exactly kind of like that big Imperial cruiser. It's kind of what it reminded me of, this certain scene. And it's just when it brings out like the wonder and like, whoa, or questions. It's a good thing. All right. Let me just see. Rita says, let me just say sorry. Oh, okay. Sorry, I missed a few. So if I miss anything, I don't intend to. Vanessa says, I've had balls of light come up to me too. Thank you so much for explaining. Most beautiful thing ever happened to me. That's beautiful, Vanessa. And again, it's the feeling. If you had a ball of light come up to you and it felt sinister, you'd have a very different response. And then you would know that somebody of, like in a negative vibration camp. But most of these things are not. Now, some will say with orbs, they'll say, there are many different colors of orbs. And some say, to me, I've only ever seen like white ones or white/gold. But some people say there are red and orange ones. Those you got to go again with that inner heart space detector. Just the little that I know about that is that supposedly, because again, go by this, your inner truth detector all the time of your heart space. But from what I've heard, generically speaking, red and orange are more negative leaning. It's kind of like the old Star Wars thing too. The red lightsaber means no bueno, like bad energy is dark side, and the lighter blues and lighter whites and whatever, into gold and whatever, or higher vibration is kind of that thing. But again, always go with your own personal truth detector, because what might be bad for somebody, maybe your soul family has some connection to that and it doesn't have a bad meaning. You know what I mean? It's all about, does it feel good? Don't go by the physical eyes. Does it feel good in the presence of it? Or you feel like, maybe I should leave the room. That's how you know. Good, not so good. It's as simple as that. We have been given that gift of having our heart space and our truth detector right in there. Okay, with any energy field, any being we come up across, as it's with people too. You walk in a room and if somebody kind of like feels negative, or dogs do it all the time. Somebody walks up, they'll tell you immediately what they think their truth detector is. They're going to bark or try to shred somebody, or they're like, oh, I love this person, right? So that's kind of how a good way for us to maneuver through all of this is to become more like that. Okay, and Vanessa says, I did what you said to do with my camera's contrast, and I was able to see something in the clouds. I went with my senses and took the picture. I love this stuff. Thank you so much. Oh, and I love you. Thank you, Vanessa. I love you for saying that and letting me know. Because I've often said too, it's just everyone starts taking pictures like this or feeling into it or start to get in touch more with the sky, like 2 to 5 minutes a day. Just stand there and watch a certain area of the sky without leaving, without getting impatient, and just really start to notice patterns and things. You more than likely are going to see a cloak and craft wherever you are in the world, day or night. Nighttime's fun too because you play with some of that stuff. It gets a little grainy, but you can still pull stuff out of your pictures. But I love that too. And it's a great way to practice your intuition. Am I feeling something up there or not? And Rita says, unidentified fantastic object. LOL. Awesome. So you're taking on the challenge, UFO. What can the acronym mean? And actually, that's a good reminder. I'm going to read one more comment, and then I'm going to go to my top 15 list, or just 15 lists. It's really not top. It's just 15 that just poured out of me. But Vanessa says, the first orb that came up to me and gave me so much love, I thought it was going to explode, and then it turned into light. It was white light and opalescent rainbows. Oh my God, that's gorgeous. So that means you're in the presence of an extraordinary, loving being, very lucky. And she says, I also see little blue orbs of light. I wonder what you think they are. That depends. It depends on where you are, the timing. I know there's lore in the Celtic, especially in the Celtic vein of things, that they call those little blue things wisps, right? And that can be any kind of elemental. But again, you got to, feel into it. Are they reliably loving, like you said you had with that opalescent rainbow experience? Or is there something a little elusive about it? Does it feel like it has trickster energy? Again, you got to feel into it, right? Yeah, so interesting. But the blue orb ones, it depends on a lot more information of like what was going on at the time and where you were situationally. But thanks for sharing. That's awesome. I love it. I love it too. I love hearing other people's experiences, and I'm going to get into some very specific ones coming up. But before I do, let me do this since Rita was joining in on the little game here. So I'm going to take UFO. So again, stands for unidentified flying object. I want to bring this opportunity up to remind, with the whole disclosure world too, since we're talking about it. There's in the Spanish-speaking world, Romance languages, French, Spanish, the acronym is OVNI, OVNI. So in Spanish, it stands for Objeto Volador Non Identificado, so unidentified flying object. And in French, if I get this right, it is Objet Volant Non Identifié. So again, means the same thing. And in the title or in the description of the show, I said, hey, let's talk disco volante. And disco volante is flying saucer in Italian. So anyway, there's lots of fun ways if we want to start calling it a flying saucer versus a UFO, etc. There are USOs, which are unidentified submersible objects that go underwater. And some of those go underwater and also, in the air. And there's all kinds of subtleties and nuances to these things. And then we have the orb world, in the old, World War II, they had the Foo fighters. They're the ones that saw the orbs pass right through the planes. That was a big discussion item back then. That wasn't hidden. And then also, what else? Oh, there's one more thing I was going to say. Oh, and there's a specific reason why I won't, and I'm just going to say this one time in the show only, if I can help it. I'm not going to use the acronym UAP. I actually get offended, affronted. I'm joking. I don't let anything do that to me, but I don't like it. I don't appreciate it, because to me, that's the government/military rebranding. And I use that word specifically for a reason, rebranding into our memories, right? Trying to rebrand and, brand in a new name for it, because it's kind of like so that they don't have culpability later, because more and more we're all waking up to this. Yes, there are craft. Call it what you will. Cloak and craft, orb, shifting, dancing, Merkaba in the sky. There's like all these different types of craft showing up. And, if you just take even a mini look around YouTube, so many just regular people like us all out there with our camera phones, capturing some stuff now and having experiences, because they're on the rise. They're ramping up in a good way. And so we're seeing a lot of stuff that we're fascinated by. I can't quite explain, because again, it's capturing our childlike wonder. It's, lifting us up. Like, again, I can't help but laugh at some of these things. It makes me happy. Like, wow, what will they show me next? That's cool. How'd they do that? How'd they cloak like that? what frequency? Like, how can they just be there so silent, but they're like right above the tree, with some of these craft, some of these experiences I've had that I'll talk about. But anyway, I don't use that UAP acronym because, when I said it second time, but I said it because they say it stands for unidentified aerial or atmospheric phenomenon. They've changed their story on it. They're doing that to rebrand so that when all of this disclosure is coming out more and more, as I said, it's like a train coming down the tracks, but it's not going to stop. It's got a heavy load. Our momentum is full in on this for disclosure. For some reason, I'm led to even show my little T-shirt. I forgot my little, oops, if I can do it here. Howdy, alien. My happy alien with pink purple face. Howdy, folks. Friendly alien. The train is moving on in. It's fully loaded. And it's moving in toward, we're going to get the disclosure of all the positive things, our galactic inner earth, parallel, whatever, friends and family, soul family all around us at different frequencies, whether it's a form of an orb or whatever else. So the military / whoever more negative leaning aspects of that are doing the UAP rebranding. Damn it, I said it again. Darn it, forgive me. But they're doing the rebranding so that when the time comes that more and more of us are saying, oh yeah, okay, cloak and crab, no big deal now. They can say, well, see, we always told you there were UAPs, but they're going to use that as a get out of jail card, not to be culpable for all of the horrible years of ridicule and offing people and taking people away, anybody who's talking about a UFO way back in the day. So I'm going to continue to use UFO. It's also a cultural reference thing. Don't change it on us. Don't try to take it away. Everyone knows about UFO. Don't try to start ramping up this new acronym, especially for like the newer generation, and try to erase all of that other history that goes with this away with the, phrase UFO. Anyway, that's enough me talking about that. But anyway, okay, so let me go into my 15. And then I will add, I know I don't have Rita's unidentified fantastic object. That's a good one. So I'm going to read these rather quickly just for fun again, and then we'll switch gears and I'll talk about some other stuff. Also, feel free to throw anything in the chat if you wish, if you have any other topics or things you want me to talk about. This is kind of disclosure theme, yes, but we can also talk about some other stuff along the way. All right, so here are my UFO acronym breakdowns to include a little bit more than identified flying object. Unlimited, free, open. The one I already said, uniting, fearless, okay. Unique, fearless, observe. Unique, friends / family, overhead. Up for observation. Understanding, future options. Upliftment, fantastic overall. Unencumbered, free, open up. Understanding, family, origins. Undergo, familiar, open-hearted. Undo, forgetfulness, openly. Unbelievable, for others. Unfoldment, for ourselves. Ultimately finding ourselves. That one hits me hard. I mean, in a good way. I really like that. Ultimately finding ourselves. I'll get to that in a second. And the last one I have was universal frequency 1. And so the thing that touched me extra on ultimately finding ourselves is the more that you look into this whole ET thing and you start to see the craft, or you may recall in dream time you had an experience with an ET, or you're not sure if it was a dream or real. And the more that you get into this, the more that you find that you may actually be a parallel version of yourself, your higher self, or a soul fragment, however you want to call it, a fractal of you, may actually be on that craft when it appears, and it's you reflecting back to yourself what exists. And it comes when you're ready to open up and really see deeper into the world, or it just comes up as a little like mini awakening point, or it comes up as a little wink and a smile and a reminder that there is something far bigger in this world than fear, and far bigger than, oh my God, I'm going to miss this bill payment tomorrow. Oh, the stress. It's to open up and remember that when you know there's something far bigger than the little, cage that a lot of us have been kept in until the moment that we kind of awaken in this game, in this matrix, whatever you want to call it on Earth. That allows you to step out and free yourself from the shackles of fear, shame, and all the things that this 3D world will try to do to keep people in a little box. Okay. And so it's a very beautiful thing, disclosure. And I highly, I'm not going to tell anyone else what to do. I'll just say what I'm not going to do. I'm not going to participate in the low vibe energy and the things that are coming out on this movie, scheduled to come out to the public in the US anyway on Friday by director, the initials SS. Not going to do it. I choose to go into my heart space and know the truth of the positive aspect of all of this being shown, craft, and whatever. And the fact that I can even talk about this right now, again, I didn't necessarily, figure I'd come on today, but something was saying, no, come on, we've got to talk about the happy factor and the positive aspects of all of this. So what I'm going to do is I only have 2 slides today, but I'm going to show these, and then I'm going to go into a kind of a recap of some very specific line item by line item, like, oh, I saw this UFO when I was this age, or friends saw it here, here, and here, and just go through a few of them. And again, I'm sure that, say you're like, I'm frustrated, I haven't seen one, I want to. Well, if you're feeling that, you'll see one soon. You'll have an experience soon, I bet you. And say you what do I want to say? Yeah, just know that you will. You'll see it at the right time, and it'll probably be at a time that you least expect. On the flip side, you may have already had experiences, but you just haven't recalled them yet. And, if you look back further when you were little, maybe think of if you've had recurring dreams or things that just seemed odd. It could very well be that you've had an experience already. But again, we just kind of chalk it off to, oh, that was just strange, or that was a dream. Some of these dreams, we're really having experiences on what they call the astral plane or astral level. And then you come, in your dream time, you go away a little bit into these other planes and you come back into your body. So you may or may not remember. And you may have what happened like with me, just, 40 plus years after a certain event, significant event of seeing a Sasquatch. That's when suddenly some of these memories started coming back up now, because now is the time in this whole kind of ascension thing. I had my great awakening in 2010. And I will tell you, in the last 5-6 years, I've seen a huge, rapid, some massive shifting going on. And so it really is kind of hard to believe it, but yet at the same time, believe it. We are in this massive shift, and it is time for us to start seeing more and more of these discs, orbs, or whatever. I'll show you on my little cover sheet. When I was 7, I did have a recurring dream. I found out later it was an ET experience. I'll talk about that a little bit later. I've talked about it in other shows. But, after I had said dream, I was in 3rd grade and we had a creative writing assignment, and I was asked to do a story. And for whatever reason, I wrote a story about a flying saucer. And now I remember it was because I had a dream of it. And I could draw, this is the saucer I remember from the dream, the shape. I could draw this thing perfectly as you see it here, with straight lines and everything. I think I have a picture of the drawing. I don't think I have the drawing anymore, but I could sit down and draw that thing for the cover. And I remember, even as a 3rd grader, like around 7 years old, I was like, how do I know to draw that? And how do I know how to draw it so straight? It was just like a foreign concept to me. And it was something because I had experienced it in dream time very vividly. And I'll just go on that experience now. So it was a very vivid recurring dream when I was around 7. And I thought it was just a dream. But to my 7-year-old self, and when I think about it now as an adult, it felt like it was happening every night, to the point where I was sick of it. Actually, as a little kid, I remember like, oh God, I don't want to have that dream again. It repeated, and it was the same thing down to the detail. And at the end of every dream, there'd be like this flashing light, and it was, specific structure, and it was like violets and greens. And I hated seeing it. It was kind of blinding. And the reason why I didn't like seeing it was because I'd have a massive headache. I'd have migraines every single time after having this dream. So I didn't mind the dream itself. It was kind of cool. But I minded that, oh no, after this dream comes this like blinding, flashing colors or whatever at the very end of it. So it seemed like that went on for months. Now, again, maybe it was only a couple nights, but in my little child mind, it was like, forever. It was just never ending. But the point is that, just a few years ago, I did some, not past life regressions, but, sessions with others who can really see deeper into this stuff, and found out that that wasn't just a dream. That was a real experience. And that was galactic friends and family interfacing with me at that age. And that's the same age that I talked about earlier, that I said instinctively as a kid, kind of in my own mind, I'm like, I know you're there in the room at night. My room is really usually dark. And I said, I know you're there, but I don't want to see you. And so instinctively, I knew there was some kind of otherworldly friends and family, but I also knew that I'd probably be freaked out if I saw them. So they do respect, like Vanessa was saying earlier, she said she saw some beings and said, hey, can you stop that? And they did. They do when, they're of your team, your friends and family, they will respect you, so you just, if you can vocalize it or think it, you don't have to say words, your wishes are honored. And so mine has been up until now, because I have not revoked or lifted my sentiment like, hey, I don't want to see you. I know you're there. I don't want to see you. And that goes back to my question earlier. Can we get honest with ourselves and prepare ourselves to not be freaked out if we see something that doesn't look like us, or, if they're much larger than us, and try to, again, step out of, if I see it, I'm going to freak out. No, okay, I'm going to see it. I'm going to pause a second. I'm going to let my heart, my gut, feel it out, and not just be reactionary with what we see with the eyes. And kind of, like practice, train like a training. If you're training for a marathon or whatever, train ourselves to maybe undo the programming from the past where we just initial freak out button if we see something like that, to maybe just take a pause before we make a reaction, right? Trusting that if it's something dangerous, you're going to know immediately to get out of there before you even, have time to pause. So don't worry about it. Okay, so anyway, I covered a little bit. So that dream when I was a kid, I'll go into that before I show. I just have two slides, paper slides, and I just wanted to verbally talk about some experiences. So as a kid, the actual core, the crux of the dream was, and it's the same dream every single time. It was like I was in the dream, but also an observer watching a movie, except instead of on the screen, I'm like in the movie as just an observer. And the entire scene, if you will, it was monochromatic. It was like blues, grays, a little bit to it. No bright colors until a certain point in the dream. So it opens up where I'm just like walking in from who knows where, looking in front of me. There's a cottage in the middle, and off to the right is a flying saucer, a UFO, like I'm showing you here, like the one I drew. Okay, oops, sorry. Give me a minute. Man down, I'm back. So this was the shape. So off to the right, oops, I see this shape, this exact shape, except it had some supports. So, and it's not pink, it was like in a blue cast. So that's off to the right. But it's empty, like there's nobody around it, no lights are turned on. It's like it was parked and left, like you park your car, walk away. It was just sitting there. And I remember looking and I'm like, like, cause I'm like looking under the rim of the saucer. I'm like, is anyone in there? And I'm from a distance away. It's like, I don't know how to say it. Maybe this saucer is like 250 feet away off to the right. Okay. So I remember kind of looking and I don't see any activity around it. And I'm like, I wonder who's the occupant there, like who drives it. And I remember going, I didn't get a great rosy feeling. So I kind of was just observing it. Then there's this cottage, which again, everything's kind of like in a blue-gray cast to the lighting, but the cottage had more life to it. So it was like a classic, Lincoln log kind of cabin. It had the wood, and then the panes of the windows were like, divided up, and then I could look through the windows, and inside there was a beautiful golden yellow light, and there were benches with like toys on them. And I remember, wow, that looks really inviting. And then I look to the left, and then I see this huge, non-threatening, but really tall, like dinosaur, kind of dopey, lumbering along. But he didn't make eye contact. It didn't look like he'd hurt me. It's just like he's just doing what he does, and he was almost like puppet-like. So I wasn't afraid of it, but I didn't want to go over there. And I didn't want to go over to the craft because I couldn't see people and I wasn't getting such a great vibe. So I beeline it straight into what reminded me of like a shoemaker's cottage, right? From the fairy tales. So I run in and I close the door behind me. And I remember I go to the back wall immediately and sink down in the corner hiding behind one of the benches, the seated benches, the table benches and the long sitting bench. So I like hid, and I remember saying to myself, oh, good, they won't get me here. Make of that what you will. And then I remember like going, oh, it's really nice in here. And then that's the end of the dream. Excuse me. So that dream can be interpreted in many, many different directions. To me, it's kind of like, and I did some sessions with others too to kind of see deeper into what all of this could be. And what seems resonant and makes sense to me is that maybe I was given a choice, like if whatever my incarnation, whether it's here on Earth or it was going to be somewhere else, I have a choice, and there may have been a few different being group ET races involved, and who could have kind of guided and shaped my future here. And so instead of choosing A or B, I chose C, and so that's what I kind of think it is. And so I think that I didn't want to be kind of coached or brought up by. I'll make a very like dumbed down example. Not that anyone out there is not intelligent. It's for me like a very simplistic comparison, because some of this stuff gets so multi-layered of who it could be and which parallel universes and all of this. I just want to make it simple, is what I want to say. Simplify it, dumb it down. So to me, it was kind of like, if I had a choice between a Sasquatch family to raise me or reptilian family, I chose the Sasquatch. Okay, so I was choosing the Earth-based version versus maybe something else. Okay, not that reptilian can't be Earth-based, but you know what I mean? It's like I went back to the beginning of this show. Are you a cat person or dog person? Okay, I chose the cat, not the dog. Do I care? No. I mean, do I love all animals? Yes. But I just had a little bit more of a preference toward wanting to have a cat than a dog, that kind of thing. Not that a cat is greater or lesser than the dog is greater or lesser than the cat. It's just simply a different choice, that kind of thing. So anyway, that was that dream. So I thought that was just a recurring dream. But what happened with it was I had that drawing ability, came out of nowhere, to draw something very precise, like super level and crisp lines, like no kid at 7 draws like that. I was hearing different language in my head. So I would talk to my little friends and say, hey, can you understand me? Because in my mind, I was speaking a whole different language. And they would say back to me, yeah, we understand you. But I'm like, how can they? Because in my mind, a different language is coming through. So weird stuff was happening like that. I was having migraines all the time, all around that time. And as you get into like the ET world, you see that those are some telltale signs of having exposure to ETs. Now, again, doesn't mean it was negative. I didn't have a negative impression. It was more like, well, what the heck's going on? Didn't enjoy the migraine part, but I don't perceive that as like, oh, that was a sinister negative thing. To me, it was just kind of like a byproduct of all of the charged up electric or whatever goes on when you have an experience interfacing with ETs. Okay. Now, I know that does go on with there being some charged up kind of electrical field when you interface with ETs, because I had another reading with somebody who can really see deeper, and I didn't know her. It was just kind of like a blind reading. She didn't know me. I signed up for her. I found her on YouTube. And right away, she says, without knowing me at all, like, did you have any like interfaces with ETs? I'm like, what? Because I wasn't even onto this as being possible. I just thought it was a dream. And she goes, no, your electromagnetic or whatever she said field is like way off the charts. And I'm like, oh. And then pieces started to drop in like, oh, this is making sense. This is really making sense, because you'll hear people walking in a room, the clocks go haywire, or the lights flash. And I had an experience where, I crashed out a dentist, like x-ray machine, didn't, realize it, but it was coming off of me. So after having, kind of an experience interface with ETs, later on consciously, I realized, oh, that's what was going on. So point is, I'm just kind of going all over the place. I guess at this point, I'll mention a couple of other experiences. So more modern ones, and then I'll go back in time just a little bit, but not past, that was my early one. That's the only encounter I want to talk about, when I was 7 years old, a recurring dream. More recently, very recently, in fact, December 12th, 2024, I have a video of it. Again, I'll link anything I talk about that I have a video of. I saw these plasma balls, or beings rather, flying up and down in all different ways in the sky on December 12th in 2024. It was between like 9 and 10 o'clock, 10:30 at night. I had just come back from grocery shopping. I was unloading the car. I look up. I'm like, am I seeing what I'm seeing? And it was a very significant date for me personally. And there's a very significant set of circumstances going on in my life where it all came together for this craft to appear. They were appearing for a reason. I don't know it fully, but I know that the date itself was so specific because it's 12/12 and, December 12th. But, and for personal reasons, it was a very powerful day for me. So they appeared. I wasn't expecting it. I was just like grabbing something out and I looked up, but I couldn't help but notice. First of all, the feeling, there was something in the sky. Also, the overall weather and atmosphere started to change. It got really weird. It was a weird kind of wind for that time. Just everything about the sky felt like extra off, but not in a sinister way, but just noticeable, exaggeratedly noticeable. And so, you'll see in the video because I'll link it. I made it as a shorts. It's just like 2 shorts. Um, but you see these balls of light, and it's not a searchlight. And you'll hear me, the narration. At first, I was confused because I'm like, is this just a searchlight? Because I know the effects of those. But the more I looked at it, I'm like, no, it can't be because the light wasn't just like waving around like a searchlight or even pulsing. These were balls that were like moving up one after the other and then chased each other back down and then fell down off the other side in weird ways. And anyway, and then when I did my enhancement process and progressions, I could see there's something kind of cloaking in the cloud. But it was very fascinating. And on top of it, I was given the affirmation that, yes, it was a craft. It's because the thing that I saw was over land, just like in a neighborhood, suburban Miami. But at the same time, I noticed a YouTuber had posted maybe 25 miles away over water, the same phenomenon happening in a cloud. And this was a person who did post about UFOs. I never really saw his channel much, but I happened to see a video that same night. And I was like, holy crap. Definitely what he saw is what I saw. And his could not have been, there's no way it could have been a searchlight because you could see right under this cloud where all the lights were going on and they were doing the same thing that I had experienced. So just know that these things are possible and these things are real. And that's why I'm here. Hey, I'm putting it all on the line, explaining exactly what I've experienced and kind of this is a process of me trying to like connect the dots and put this all together. And I see the time, I'm not going to go in too long, but I'll try to wrap some of these up real quick. And then at the very end, for anybody who likes cards, I'll just pull a couple cards and see if we have any nice, simple, high vibe messages to go look at. Okay, so and I just have a list. I'll just rattle down quicker. So then I saw a couple of years ago also, actually looking with a neighbor too, just studying the night sky for a while, just hanging out on the driveway and looking up. And again, like I said, just more than 2 to 5 minutes watching an area of the sky and started to notice stars that were sitting there. And all of a sudden they would start moving in different ways. And it wasn't the international satellite station. It wasn't, anything that you would say is satellites and whatever. They were consciously moving in different ways. So that was interesting. So, those are craft. Also around the same time, very low in the sky. All of a sudden, I'm looking over, very low, but no sound whatsoever. So it's not a drone, a helicopter plane, no way to confuse that. All of a sudden, it was like a huge light flashed right at us. And then not, too far away on the other side of the sky, another light in the same altitude, very low, flashed back at the other one. And then all of a sudden, the first one, you just see a bright flash and poof, it's gone. And then the other one did a bright flash and poof, it was gone. And that was very much like these sci-fi movies where you see the craft's hanging there and then suddenly it decides or the coordinates are set and it just goes into hyperspace and there's a flash. It's exactly what it looked like. So I've seen that weird phenomenon. Then another time I was just casually taking the trash out to the curb, the trash can, rolling it out there. And it was about 9 p.m. at night, done this all the time, very routine activity. And then something just caused me to look up over my shoulder and off maybe half a mile away, very extremely low in the sky. I'm like, doing one of these, like, am I seeing things? And I have 20/20 vision. There were twin stars and they looked like exaggerated, almost cartoon, like, the nativity star, but huge. And 2 of them were side by side and they were golden. And the moment I locked eyes on them, it was like I got the feeling like they were like, oh shit. And then poof, they were gone. And I'm like, oh, I wish I had a camera. Like people say, oh, why don't you take pictures and videos of some of these things? Well, again, some of this stuff happens so fast. By the time you register it, there is no time to even pull out the camera. And other times we're lucky, and I do have footage of some miraculous things because we're allowed to see them. But other times there's just no time. And then I don't take it as anything was bad happening there. It was just probably like two craft hanging out. They didn't realize I could see them, and then they did, and they're like, oh crap, we got to turn the light off. This human's not supposed to know yet, kind of thing, right? Now, another really most recent, let's see, not more recent than the 1212 one, but right around there. April 2024, that was the time of the really very hyped up solar eclipse. And right around that time, I was talking with somebody in the driveway at nighttime, and I talk about this encounter more in detail. But I'm, face to face with somebody. So let's just say like that. Well, I don't want to do it this way. So this is me, this is the other person. And I'm, talking face to face with the other person. And I just happen to look over her shoulder up to the tree. And this is just like it's a big tree, like a royal poinciana, if you know what that is. It was maybe 30 feet high, maybe a little bit more. And hovering right above it was like a bar of lights I could see. Again, no sound. This thing was big. And, but it was very low. And immediately, like even now recalling it, I'm just lighting up because right away, just something within me welled up with excitement, with wonder, with love. And I was like, inside, I was like a little kid, like, oh my God, I see it, I see it, I see it. So by the time I could tell the friend, like, turn around and look, she turned and it was like just visible was like a bar of lights. So like maybe 4 or 5 golden yellow lights and in a row, spaces in between. They weren't oscillating, they were just fixed. And so by the time she turned around, I'm like, dang it, because I started seeing them one by one dim out. And by the time she turned around, she saw the last one fade out. And she was like, oh, was that a plane? I'm like, no. So at the point that I locked eyes and saw it, and I know the neighborhood, it couldn't have been like a stadium light or whatever. No, this is just like right over like a little residential area. So above the tree, making no sound whatsoever. And I knew what it was because I got so excited intuitively. And so anyway, so when I first locked eyes on it and then I told her, hey, turn around, I heard in my head, oh shit, she sees us. And then right away, that's when they started shutting down the lights. So, do I somehow have like a fractal of myself up on the ship and I'm working with them at the same time? Or is that just other ETs or their soul family? Definitely got the friend and family vibe. Again, I would have looked at it, and if it was something bad, I would have been like, run. But I was just so excited, right? So that's how you're in the presence of beautiful things, beautiful side of disclosure. Let me just see. I'm going to show you one more slide here. Oh, right. And then one of my, I think I'll end on one more experience. I mean, I will pull a card if anybody wants, but I'm going to tell one more experience after I just show you this, and then I'll start to wrap up the show. And again, if you guys have anything to say, feel free to jump in and chat. This is just something, I'm not going to like belabor this and go over it in detail, and I can actually even post this in the post section if you like. If not, no big deal. But I was just posting some things like, again, reminder, disclosure can be friendly. That's just a cute little ET. It doesn't have to be scary. And these days it's not going to be, it's going to be friends and family coming, to, what do I want to say? It's like, welcoming committee. Anyway, I just found this funny. This is like a Barbie style vintage, like flying saucer disc, since I was talking about the disco volante phrase, the flying saucer. And then a reminder, there's lots of memes around there with some type of ET picking up a cat and saying, this thing is vibrating. Like they don't know what it is, but obviously they would know what a cat is. Now, what I find interesting too is I have some, like this I was showing you before, that's the shape I drew. That's a shape I've seen in my recurring dream experience. Then there's other shapes, if you get looking into it, especially if you just do a Google search or internet search rather, and just put vintage or retro UFOs or retro UFO toys, you get into some fun stuff, just fun. And I found this chart, and I don't know who did it, otherwise I'd give them credit. But these are all different shapes, sizes, styles of UFOs. And these I have seen on internet in one way or the other, most of these that people have actually spotted. And actually I'll probably just take a picture of this and post it in the post section. Anyway, so I don't want to get into this too much, but I will post it and you can, at your own leisure, kind of look at that. So it just shows you, mainstream media now will say, oh, there's 4 types of ET races. And it's laughable. If you know, you know. There are so many more races and species and everything else than four. And so, the four they classify as like the Nordic, the whites, the little grays, the insectoids now they're even highlighting. And oh, there's one more. I'm sure it's so obvious I'm blanking right now because this is a live show. But anyway, they're showing them as just being four. But we know there's so many more. Look at even Star Wars. Some of these movies, sci-fi movies, they say is more like a documentary. In the cantina scene, they're showing you there's a whole universe of every kind of thing. And then you get into the other, type of non-corporeal things that don't even have a body in our orbs. We have a whole nother class of type of intelligence and beings out there, sentient beings. All right. So anyway, I'll post that later. So the other experience I wanted to talk about was a more recent one with the 3-eye atlas crossing by. Now, I didn't take any conscious stock into that. I knew 3-eye atlas is a craft or collection of craft. It's not whatever they were saying it was as a comet. I knew that. But as far as that, I didn't consciously seek out to connect with it or anything. I was just like, okay, I know that's cloak and craft, whatever. It's coming, it's going, I don't know what it's doing. I didn't really care, to be honest. Actually, I don't like that phrase, to be honest, but you know what I mean. I didn't really care what it was doing. It can come, it can go, whatever. It's not going to harm anything. If anything, it's going to help us or just be neutral. And so one day, though, I had done a lot of like physical like work around, on a property, kind of handyman type work. And I just thought I wasn't overly exhausted. It was just normal, kind of exhausted, tired, a little bit tired. So I thought, let me just lay down. I feel my eyes are feeling heavy. I feel my head is feeling heavy. I'm just going to lay down a minute, close my eyes, maybe like for an hour, power nap. So no sooner, like I just literally put my head down and right away within like a minute, so I wasn't asleep, all of a sudden my eyes were closed and I didn't really feel like I could open them. Not in a bad way. I just didn't feel like opening them. Everything just felt heavy. And then all of a sudden, I'm just seeing black. My eyes are shut, but it's all black, which is unusual because in my room, I make sure at night I have to have lights on. I have to have what do you call them, like night lights. I've had too many like experiences where I don't want to see anything, so I want night lights. That's a whole nother story. In the spiritual realm. So I want night lights. And so it was weird. I was thinking, oh, this is strange because I see true black, like it's black. And that shouldn't be. And then right about the time I'm thinking that, all of a sudden these sketch lines, but I see sketch lines forming a picture, but they're like energetic lines. They're like electrical line, charged up lines. Like if you see those photos at night and they do like a slow action, what do you call them? Nighttime speed mode on some old-fashioned photos, and say you see like a highway and the lights, whether it's the headlights or the taillights, they end up just looking like a streak of light. That kind of line is what started etching a picture. And I started seeing like red and green and white and whatever and blue, and the line started like almost like an etch-a-sketch, started sketching a picture but in 3D of a cockpit. And all of a sudden I'm like, wait a minute, I don't know how I know this, but like I'm in a cockpit. And this was happening so lightning fast. And I'm like, suddenly I'm in this cockpit. And the next thing I know, I see just the back of a being silhouetted, so backlit. So I'm just seeing the back, like the back of the head and the shoulders of a being who is piloting what I realize is a craft in space. A craft. And now I'm not connecting this with 3-eye atlas at the time, but I'm just like, whoa, why am I in a cockpit? I've never had this happen before in my life. Whoa, here I am. And so I just see the back, silhouette shadow of this being. And I could tell it's like hairy. It's like a little Sasquatch is the impression I got, even though I didn't see the face. And so it's piloting this UFO. And so I remember seeing it, and I remember thinking, I had started having a telepathic conversation with this being, and I'm saying, oh, I don't want to go. And I started breaking down and crying, like ugly crying, heaving and crying and so sad. And I'm like, oh, I don't want to leave you. Meaning the being was like friends and family, like good old soul friends, was the feeling of it, friends and family. And I remember saying, oh, I don't want to leave because I won't be able to come back. And then the little being telepathically back was just saying, I know. And then I really was crying. I'm like, oh, but I don't want to go and leave you guys. And then the being was like, oh, you'll see us again. And I'm like, that's not true. I won't. And then the next thing you know, I'm back in my, room conscious. And I woke up. It was this only felt like a 5-minute thing, you know? And then I remember waking up feeling so sad, like it was so real. And then later I put together, oh my gosh, this has never happened to me before in my life. And it's happening when the 3 Atlas was like its closest to Earth. So I'm like, well, I guess I had a very real experience on some other kind of astral, or however you want to describe it, parallel experience. But that was very real. I was awake. It wasn't like, I'd been on a 24-hour awake shift or something. And so, again, I'm just telling you now in case you've had anything similar or if you're about to. And it was nothing to fear. Again, it was like, ooh, it's like a puzzle to solve. I'm like, what is that? What happened? What could that have been really? And it gets very exciting, at least I find anyway. So that's all part of disclosure too. Not necessarily like you can point and go, oh, look, is that a ship? A craft in the sky? It could also be like, whoa, what was that in my dream just now? Or a step further, whoa, when I think back to my childhood, wait, was that a reality, I was having an experience with, or was it a dream, or both? What? But that gets you down an exciting path to kind of try to discover. Disclosure also is like a part of discover is we have a disc in that word too, right? Disc over head, or uncover some of this stuff. So it's really cool. So anyway, yeah, those are just some thoughts I've had about this. Oh, also, those are just some of my personal experiences. And I'll just mention too, I have friends or neighbors or acquaintances that over the last couple of years, some have said, oh yeah, I've seen green lit up spacecraft over the ocean, going over the Atlantic or Biscayne Bay down in Miami. This person was a boater, so took the boat out at night, had a whole group of friends in the back even, and said, hey, do you see those? And like, I think maybe one other person out of 5 saw what he was seeing. And that's another thing. There may be a bunch of us standing in a group and you look up and maybe 1 or 2 say, hey, don't you see that craft? It's all lit up. And the other 4 might be like, no, what are you talking about, man? That's just some clouds up there. What? And so some of the craft everyone can see. Others, it just might be if your eyes or your aura are at the right frequency to, perceive it, and there's your match, you'll see it. And if not, you don't. And there's nothing bad if you don't. It just means you're just not at that frequency. And so that's something that could start happening too. That's why I get so excited about when I take these photos. I'm sorry, I was just looking I threw some around. When I can take a photo and I can point at it and say, see, I get very excited because then I know everyone can see that if I can take the photo of it. Versus I see this out over the ocean. I'm like, hey, to the boat of people, can you see what I'm seeing? And they're just like, what? You're crazy. I didn't actually, I know better. That day I didn't say, hey, do you see that's a craft? I just said, hey, do you guys see that's like kind of funny cloud? And they're like, oh, yeah, whatever. But, they're not in the mindset or readiness to see something like that. So I just, for fun, just said, hey, do you guys see anything weird about that cloud? I don't say, hey, do you see that that's a craft? But anyway, it's just my way to test. Are other people seeing it too? So they could see something was there, but they didn't really look. So when I can do with the simple enhancements and pull it out like that, that just makes me excited, because that means if you're seeing this and you can see what I'm pointing to, you would have seen it too. Okay. And it's my way to be able to communicate beyond, oh, hey, you see that? And people are like, what are you looking at? So like I say, the technology of the cell phones and stuff, it's a blessing and a curse. I don't like that we're walking around with a black screen, black mirror technology. There's a lot of negative stuff coming out of that. By the way, if you can, I know a lot of us rely on this as like an emergency, have it by our bed, or if you want to stay in touch, especially with kids or people, loved ones, great distances, and you need to have this near you. Especially whenever you go lay down to go to sleep or rest, whether it's nighttime, whatever, try to at least not have this right near your head. Definitely don't have it on the bed or whatever you're sleeping on. Have it separated from you. And if you can, like have it like lower in a drawer, or, somewhere where you still hear it, but it's not just right next to your head. I've been finding, I don't know if you have, but especially at night, there's a frequency or something comes through the phone. And I feel really bad when I wake up if I've accidentally fallen asleep with this on the bed, or especially if I've had a YouTube video on or something and it played out to the end and I forgot to turn it off. There's something when it keeps that active line open, if you will, where something else is coming out and creating a bad vibe. And that's my experience. So I'm just saying, like, heads up, maybe really look at your situation. So I keep it down in a way where I still could hear it if I needed to hear an emergency call or make one myself, but definitely keep it away from your head if you can, right? Oh, and SKR, hey, welcome, said cute with the cat. So yeah, that image I had up earlier, I couldn't resist, with my handle as Lavender Sky Panther. Hold on, let me see if I can pull it. Gosh, I've just been throwing the slides all over the place when I'm done with them, so I can't pull it back up right now. But I'll post it in the post section. Oh, and if you like the cat, this will be for you, SKR. Hang on. I had this shirt on in a former show, and I forgot to stand up and show it. I think Rita was like, "What's on the shirt?" So I was going to wear the Howdy one today, just because the color is like pink, and I wanted to get away from the stereotypical aliens are green. Even the emoji shows them right as green. But this I thought was so cute. Little cat. Alien cat. He looks cute, also sad at the same time. So anyway, that's for anybody who like the cats. Oh, and Vanessa says you can get an EMF sticker to put on your phone to stop the frequencies from hurting you. That's true too. I don't know. I just don't feel it like going for the sticker stuff. But if that works for you guys, great. Also, you can put crystals around, on your nightstand. Any of the absorbing ones like black tourmaline's a great one to absorb any negative energies, if you want to, have this on your person, like a, clear quartz, Lemurian quartz, any nice high vibe stuff, selenite. Oh, I was going to show, thanks for talking about that. That led me to talking about crystals too. Oh, cute. Thanks, Esker. I guess the crystal of the show, I'm doing some repeats because I was in the middle of moving and I can't find all of my crystals. And I've shown this one before, but this is my go-to if we're going to talk about a cosmic theme or galactic theme. It's this blanking chrysanthemum stone. This is just one specimen where it's mostly black. The black part's sediment, and then these things form. And so this is natural. So it looks like a flower. That's why they call it chrysanthemum stone. But to me, it also kind of looks like a starburst in the night sky in this exact specimen. But anyway, it's pretty cool. So you might want to look around if that's something of interest to you. These vary drastically. Like this has a beautiful like signature, like one bloom there. Others have like blooms all over the place or really big. It's mostly white. So many variations once you start to look in the world of this. And they have really good meanings too. I'm not going to get into it right now, but that's a beautiful stone. And I held this up on the last live, but I'm going to do it again because it's right here. And it does also go with like a galactic cosmic theme. It's even called Celestite or Celestine. And it's got a beautiful blue. And again, it's like a heavenly stone. And like I've said before, this is one of my use for like healing, actual like healing of people when I'm called to. But it is the baby blue and a very serene, it's good for helping you sleep and all of that too, and connecting with heavenly realms. A very soft energy there. And again, each specimen, like people, it has its own signature, its own feeling. And as I say too, when you're looking for crystals, you can go by the book, the book definition of what they do, but more than that, go by feel. So just because something, that's supposed to help this or heal this, or some say even amethyst is good against a fever. I don't think this applies to anyone here, but if you've had too much to drink and have a hangover, amethyst is supposed to be good for that, to like do stuff. But you could pick up a particular specimen and go, I'm not feeling this. And then it's not going to do what the book says for you. So just always go by how you feel. Again, our heart-centered detector, truth detector, go with it. Is it resonant or not with you for whatever you want to do? And that's whether it's for yourself or picking one up to, help heal somebody else. It's got to be a good frequency match, a good harmony. And you can tell right away if it feels, like it's got the good vibe or not, right? Okay. And I don't know if there's anybody that wants to chime in with anything else. I think otherwise, if I left anything out, there's always another show, right? I think I covered most of what I wanted to. Oh, also, since Vanessa brought up the YouTube channel, she brought up Mila, who's with YouTube channel Higher Vibrations, and I'll link this below. She had a show earlier on saying today is an extra auspicious day for good luck and good things. And it's the day called Cosmic Kiss, happening up, if you look up in the skies, where Jupiter is really close to Venus. And so it's supposed to be appearing like they're kissing, right? And it's funny that came up because this is the first I heard of it today on her show earlier this afternoon. And I was laughing because earlier in the week, Well, it's still early in the week. So yesterday, Sunday or Monday, I can't remember if it was yesterday or the day before, I kept hearing this song by Sade, Kiss of Life. If you know that one, heck, I'll link it in the description area below too afterward. It's such a beautiful song. And I love that song because there's lyrics in it that say, look, the sky is, oh gosh, now I'm going to screw it up. She goes, look, give me a second. Look at the sky. It's the color of love. And there's other sky references. And I just thought that's a beautiful thing. Look at the sky. It's the color of love. And I think that's a beautiful way to sum up my disclosure talk here is look at the sky. It's the color of love. And that gets into other shows that I've done, little shorts where the sky literally just in my camera out of nowhere just turned bright pink. And I felt stuff up there. And then it went back down to gray. And these are just be prepared to be wowed in a good way at a lot of things happening in the sky if you're ready for it. And also elementals, people are talking about they saw an elf like visibly. I mean, lots of fun stuff is going down right now. So if you're open to it, you may catch a glimpse of a fairy. You may see something morph that just looked like a firefly, but then you look again, and you're like, wait, but that felt like a fairy. So much is happening now. So it's a time to be disclosure. I want to put equals childlike wonder and leave it at that, a very high vibrational thing. All right. So, well, that's mostly it. I'm going to go ahead and draw a card or two. And if you want to stick around for that, if not, no harm, no foul. And I think I'll be doing another live show on Saturday. Again, this was just kind of like a very special kind of episode coming in. So here's what we'll do. I am feeling to draw from this. The answer is simple deck because it is what it is, what it says. Nice and simple. Oops, I just hit something. And so let's just get a card from here. And then I also will draw one from the Language of Flowers Oracle. I really like this deck because it not only talks about flowers and has beautiful wood carving, kind of engraving artistry on the cards, illustrations, but they also give some interesting insights to some places because they show a flower in front of a specific place. So let's do that. Let's just see what comes up. And it may or may not relate to anything that we talk about. I never know. You never know. So let's just see what wants to come out. And then just for all of us, whatever we might want to hear that is coming from the highest place. And that just was about to dump a ton of cards. So give me 1 minute. All right. How beautiful. I think this is a great one. And it is number 27 or 9. Let go and flow. So look at the spirit of that. We were talking about, things that happen as a child. And just now is the perfect time. And I was talking about childlike wonder to connect in and, look at the sky. Like I said, look at the sky. It's the color of love. And here we get that gorgeous rainbow. That's the summation, the color of love, right? And she's wearing pink and purple, all high vibrational colors. As you know it, the chakras can be pink or green, depending on where you are working in that heart space. Both colors apply for the heart chakra. We got the green grass and she's got the pink pants. Then you got the violet of the shirt, which is the crown chakra, and above. And then again, the beautiful summation with all those colors there. So let go and flow. So just a happy reminder for us not to get too caught up in things. Also, not to get too caught up in the whole AI world. Get out in nature. It's a good reminder, And, we talk about grounding and all of this, but you know what? If you actually, even as an adult, can literally get on a swing, a lot is to be said about taking a load off. That's literally letting go of any burdens you might have. You're actually putting into practice that you just want to let it go, and become weightless. And so if you can get to like a playground even or anywhere you need to go to find a swing, boy, that really does a lot and for the body. And it's also kind of getting back to that memory of being the child, before there were any weights and burdens on you, perhaps. And that's reminding me too, as a kid in the playground where I remember clearly just spinning a lot. You put your arms out and you spin till you get dizzy. Maybe think back to which direction did you spin? Like, did you put your arms out? Did you always go to the left or did you go to the right? And that might have a little special message in there for you too. But it's the amount of, throwing your hands up in the air, wave them like you just don't care, dance, move, do things that you would do as a child. And if you have ailments, bad knees, things not working, just chair dance, find a way. Find a way to lift that vibration. All right, now let's look at the language of flowers. I hope we just get one because I do want to look at the book and read something from the book. It's a very neat deck if you're into decks. It's a very good vibrational deck and very interesting. Okay, let me do this again. What do we need to hear? The highest vibration. Best and good for all. Some drop, but there are too many. Give me a moment. I think I'm just so excited talking about this topic tonight. That was too many that I am having a moment to connect in. Give me a minute. There we go. It'll be here in a minute. Here we go. Oh, number 8, confidence. Okay, so this is interesting. It says, poet's narcissus is the flower. Now, I know the narcissus are usually white. It looks like they have golden centers. And now the thing with this deck is not only will they give you really good description on the plant, and for any botanists out there, they give you really detailed information, or garden enthusiasts, but the background is always very significant. So whether it's just looks like geography, landscape, or buildings, actually I'm gonna read this one from the book, but I also just want to pull as a quick example. Random, I just pulled this out of the deck, and random in quotes, because we know there's no coincidences. I get number 26 or 8, longevity, white chrysanthemum. Come on, I only showed you the chrysanthemum crystal. There we go. So there's a big theme there. Well, you know what? I might have to read out of the book on these two. I think I have to, because come on, what are the chances? I didn't really plan on even, holding that crystal up today. So let's do it. Let's look at 2 if you want to hang around. If not, again, no problem. All right, number 8. Let's look at number 8, confidence, with the poet's narcissus. And actually, I'm just getting a little message off of that. The term narcissist is thrown around left and right in every which way these days. Yes, there's a good reason for it in some cases. Others, I think it's like a little too much, where people are just calling everything that. But, I want to take the flip side of it. There's nothing wrong taking a good look at yourself. The mirror is up there for a reason, for us to look at the good, the bad, the ugly, and all of it. And so the only danger with Narcissus is I think, he lingered a little too long looking at his own reflection. But there is value in taking a good look at ourselves, stopping to smell the flowers and really take good, as they say, good inventory on ourselves. And then let it go, like the girl. I probably threw the card back. Oh, yeah. But then take that, maybe really look at it, take a good, honest look, but then also just to let it go and not take everything too seriously. But let's see, I'm curious of where that hill is in the background of this confidence card. Give me 1 second. Here we go. I have to hold this up in the light over here to read it. So let's see what they say, the meaning that they have for poet's narcissus. Meaning, finding, understanding, and appreciating an inner truth and beauty while working on self-love and an increase in self-confidence. A new awakening and renewed hope are indicated, with increased clarity and new vision, inspirations, and ideas. Joyful news and times are coming, with a chance of happiness and happier times in particular, a rebirth and surge of energy to move forward with more positive steps, which perhaps means that something you are expecting is now forthcoming. And then let me see where we are here. They do talk about the botanical profile. I'm not going to get into that too much. They talk about that it grows between 20 and 40 centimeters in height. And they have gardening tips. But I want to get down to the place. The place is Mount Olympus, Greece, in the background. Mount Olympus is the highest mountain in Greece and has 52 peaks, the highest of which is, if I say this right, Mytikas, at 2,919 meters, located on the border between Thessaly and Macedonia. It is in the Olympus range. It is famous for its connections to ancient Greek mythology, as well as its spectacular and diverse flora. The distinctive circular shape was created by wind and rain. So I don't know what they're referring to there, but I'm going to, just throw that out as a drop and go. That might be something that you all might want to look into further on that location. Now, because this so serendipitously came out to show us this white chrysanthemum, I do want to look this up too. And actually, in the background, it looks like some type of Japanese pagoda, if I'm not mistaken. So I'll see in the book right now if I got that right. What I want to say is, what I covered in a previous live, a former live, is that the chrysanthemum is the emblem. There's a stylized version of it, symbol of it, on top of the Japanese passport. And their emperor ascends the chrysanthemum throne. And there's a lot of tie-in to ancient meaning there and code, which I do cover on a previous show. I'll look up to see which one it is, and I'll link it in the description box below, because I talk about that in a little bit of detail. All right, so this is 26, longevity. I do want to say, because that's very specific, there was a massive surge of energy that came up on Monday at about, I think, 12 o'clock noon Eastern, if I'm not mistaken, somewhere around there. Massive. If you look on the Schumann chart, it's a big whiteout. And right after that happened, I received a text that a beloved loved one in the family had passed. And so it is a thing when I see longevity. Anybody that passes right now, whether they're loved ones, family, friends, or animals, pets, there is something too about a window of energy happening right now where you may see that happen. And it's okay, because those souls are choosing to make a little bit of an exit point. Not that they go away forever. They're very much alive. They're just saying, nah, you know what? I don't want to experience this on Earth right now in this body. Hey, let me go over here and cross into a different frequency. I'd like to go check out what's happening over on this planet, or this or this. They're just choosing a different experience. They're very much alive. Okay. So anyway, that's just, since it came up, it hit home for me about longevity. Let's see. So let's see what they say and where that is and what insights they might have from the book. And then I'll close this all up again, unless anybody else has anything. Oh, thank you, Vanessa. Says thank you for the beautiful show. And I don't know if I said this already, but SKR had said cute regarding that little, I think, ET kitty. I think that's what it was. Okay, hang on. Okay, let me read a little bit from here and we'll wrap it up. So we have the white chrysanthemum. Meanings: growing with wisdom, grace, and honor, as well as a sign that what you are focused on at present has the capacity for longevity and success, and could even create a lasting legacy. And I'll just stop for a minute. So that's nice too. That's another meaning of it, is longevity, in this aspect is really nice. A change in the environment and atmosphere around family and close relationships for the better, and a windfall. Increase in income or gift are all also possible. Time for long-term goal setting and planning and putting down roots. Let's see, the profile, botanical profile. Let's see if they say anything interesting. Let's see. It blossoms in autumn. And it says they will be triggered to do, let's see. Oh, they will be triggered to blossom once the period of daylight drops below 14 hours. And they consist of composite heads of ray and disc flowers in reds, pinks, whites, or yellows. I didn't know that about the chrysanthemum. Okay, they have a little section on gardening tips. I'm going to move over that for now. Okay, so the place in the background was the Huxing Pavilion on West Lake. If I say this right, Huisu, China. And it says in 2011, West Lake was described as having influenced garden design in the rest of China, as well as Japan and Korea over the centuries, and reflecting an idealized fusion between humans and nature. It is a freshwater lake, and it's home to numerous temples, historical sites, created islands, and gardens. Oh, that's it. So, okay, China. But anyway, connection between what it's doing in China and also the, like I said, having a stylized version of the chrysanthemum on the Japanese passport, and they ascend the chrysanthemum throne. I think there's a lot of code there on the chrysanthemum throne. I haven't taken a journey there, but perhaps some of you out there might want to look into that, since it came up so prominently today. There, and I'll hold it up one more time because I just love this one. Let me see if I can give you a little more detail, of that chrysanthemum stone. All right. Well, all my beautiful people out there, a soul family indeed, if you're here watching this, I wish you a beautiful week. No fear, whatever you see up in the skies. Maybe for fun, take my challenge on further if you want to find out more. If you want to, doodle out more expressions for the acronym UFO than what we talked about here, just for fun. And remember, it's all good. And try to stay in that higher, high vibration here. And until next time, hope you see some fun stuff in the skies and have that childlike wonder like I have. And Rita Vita says, bye, everyone. See you Saturday. Have a good week. And S. Kara says, thank you. Thank you. Big love. And just, best wishes all around. I really, really pray and connect in that all of you just have a beautiful right now, and that things are just getting lighter and better at these times. I know there's ups and downs. I feel it too. It's like, oh, I just thought everything was going to get better and better and better. This was like, woohoo, Dharma celebration time. And then I'll have a week where my body is just rejecting every kind of food. And I'm like, hey, I thought this was supposed to be fun on this ascension journey. It doesn't feel like it. But then, I got to get back to, come on, yes, it is. It is a good time to be here. So, and especially to be here with all of you. So Rita says, thank you for sharing your energy. And I say likewise, reciprocally, thank all of you for bringing your wondrous, beautiful energy here and sharing what you have. And it just helps all of us when we do and can share, from our heart. So take care, everyone. Till next time. Hugs and love all around. Bye.